What's up, my beautiful people? Welcome back to the WAAR Room, fight fans from all around the world. I am your fight goddess, Chris Baldwin. I'm here with my fam, Malissa Smith. She is a women's boxing historian, and my boy, Eddie Goldman. We call him the conscious of combat sports. And today we have a very special guest in the house. We have boxing legend and International Hall of Fame inductee Christy Martin. She was a trailblazer, is a trailblazer in the ring, and continues to be an inspiration to female fighters across the globe. Her book, Fighting for Survival. This book is just so intense. My journey through boxing fame, abuse, murder, and resurrection. Christy Martin recounts her harrowing yet inspiring story. Martin reveals how she was brought back to life from her near-death experience at the hands of her then husband and trainer, Jim Martin. Her brilliant new book reveals how she overcame abuse, violence, addiction, and 40 years of living in the closet. And now she has turned her pain and debasement into victory and triumph. Her story is one of hope and self-belief. Yes, it is, and an inspiration for anyone struggling to break the chain of abuse or who fears to be open about their sexual orientation. It is more than the story of a boxing champion. It is a story of a survivor. Christy Martin, welcome to our show, baby. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I maybe I should have fired Don King and hired you as my
That's right. Well, let's go.
Did you hear the comment that Don King made in one of the interviews after the show that he just had in Florida I don't think you were at that because you were at the Hall of Fame, yes. But with Daniel Dubois and Trevor Bryan, he was asked about you and he congratulated you, and I'll use his exact words, on being indoctrinated into the Boxing Hall of Fame.
Nothing like him. Nothing
like it. So look, you've released this new book, Fighting for Survival. We watched the documentary, which was incredible. But this story, it's just a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and your fight. And tell us how the book tour is going. Are you on tour? Are you doing a book tour, or like just interviews? Tell us how that's going, and what kind of people are you meeting at your book event?
You know what? Ron Borges did a wonderful, fantastic job taking my words and putting them on the paper. And like it just flows so nicely, and it's easy to read, and I think it's fun to read. Even though there's some tough parts for me,
it was tough.
It's an easy read. It's an easy read. And I think as I read through it, I'm like, oh my goodness, there's so many people in this world that this story can touch. It will touch it. It's like it's domestic violence, people, sexuality for sure.
Right.
Drug addiction, sexual abuse. But number one, to me, I always feel like I've always been the underdog. I've always been an underdog. So that to me is the market. I mean, that's what anybody that feels like, or they've been told they can't do something.
Right.
No, read this, and it'll show you that, hey, little Christy Martin, Christy Salters from small town, Southern West Virginia can do it. There's nobody out there that can't.
Have you ever thought about changing your name back to Salters? Because I'm like wondering, why are you still carrying this man's name around?
It is back to Salters. Legally, yes. It is Salters. It's just, the black celebrity name, right. Martin. Right. So kind of stuck with it, and which pisses me off because that's one of the things he would tell me is you'll always be Christy Martin. Because I would tell him, I'm going to divorce you and I'm going back to Salters, and he would always remind me that no, you'll always be.
Well, actually, you're always champ. So that's right. Christy champ. That's it. You are champ.
Thank you. Yeah.
Melissa,
so we're out there. We're talking. Doing tons and tons of podcasts, interviews, talking about the book. Really trying to get people energized, excited about the story. I mean, Netflix did a great job. I think Laura Bronson, she was the director. She put it all together, but the book goes places that the Netflix documentary didn't.
This book had me jumping up out of my chair. I laughed out loud. I was looking for my cousin who, at 6 or 7 years old, how you were abused, the same thing, a cousin, I was trying to call him up. but of course I never found him. He's not on any social media, but it's an incredible coming out story. And we just, Pride Month, Pride is happening in Long Beach this, I think, weekend coming up. But can you talk to us about some of the LGBT folks you've met in the community, and what is your message to them?
Well, let's go back a few years, several years. I didn't always say the nicest things about my people.
Right.
I was pressed and pressured to be very mean and ugly and derogatory to my opponents. And you can read about it in the book, but I would tell Jim over and over, you're just playing with fire, because someone from my past is going to peep up, and then, all this stuff that you're trying to hide is going to be out there. It didn't, good or bad. I don't know which it is, but one good thing is I didn't have to do that whole thing of creeping out of the closet. It was like, boom, I went and
came out the closet with a bang.
Came out with a bang. So in some ways that made that easy. I mean, you're out there. What are you going to do now? Deny it? Right. So, I had been through that. I lived through almost 50 years of trying to deny, and I was done with denying. Really, the whole thing about leaving was to get to the point of who I could be true to me and not have to hide anymore. So, I've met a lot of really nice people, but it seems like I want to be more accepted in the LGBTQ community. But memories are long, and they can sometimes remember all those mean and hateful things I said and did.
So you've met people that brought that up to you?
I have, actually, a couple, but it was such a long time ago.
Right.
And I think that at least people, my age, they know what it's like to be put in those situations. Mm-hmm. Most everybody has at some point experienced that throughout their life. So I get a little forgiveness from those people, but there's still some of those hardcore people that, like you didn't have enough guts to stand up and be true to you.
It was hard. You were in a very difficult position to, I understand playing the straight, married boxer, you're on your way up like this. And if had you come out, that would have fizzled out. There would have been no Christy Martin induction. There would have been none of that, because that was the times. So I understood the marketing aspect, especially when, you said you were saying stuff that you didn't really want to say, calling people dykes or questioning people's sexuality, that kind of thing. I was like, yeah, she played that role to a T. But now,
well, yeah, baby pink,
Exactly.
Baby pink was not threatening.
Exactly.
The whole pink stuff was very funny, because the promoter that I started out with in Bristol, Tennessee, he put me in the pink, and I was so mad. I'm like, how can they put me in pink? But the pink was really, it was cool. And it does kind of say who I am, because the truth is I'm not a tough guy out here in the real world. Like I want people to think I'm tough. I want people to think, that I'm hard, but I'm not.
Yeah. And most fighters aren't.
I never have been. And it was just so much of a facade that I played, and right. It was tough.
Right on. So Melissa, do you want to jump in here with your questions?
Yeah, I think, first off, I got to, I think, around page 12 of the introductory chapter, and then I just lost it. I became a puddle. And I've met you in the past. I've known your story for a while. I met you shortly after all of this transpired. But the poignancy of where you had to get to find your life is the truth of so many people's stories. And the thing that also really affected me in the book is when you describe meeting Emil Griffith in the rain, knocking on your door after you fought Dakota Stone for the first time. You win a title again. You broke your hand, which I hadn't even realized you had broken it twice with Dakota Stone.
Yeah, she has a very hard head.
And you talk about meeting Emil Griffith, who's about as tragic a figure in boxing as can exist. And you were still not at your bottom when you met him. And I just would like you to talk to what that was for you. And did you see the glimmers of who you could become in meeting Emil Griffith?
You know, the really cool, I love boxing, and I am, I can't say I'm a historian, but like I'm very aware of the ones that came before me, and love those guys. I mean, they were all such warriors. But you're right, Emil Griffith, I had met him at the Boxing Hall of Fame. So when he approached me, I knew who he was, of course, and I was so honored that this man, this legend, this great champion is going to take his time to come over and talk to me. And my hand was broken and it was throbbing, but if he would wanted to stand there for a day and talk, I would have stood there and listened, because I mean, that's what you respect, those guys, those legends. And then you respect the man that, my goodness, he's been through so much. And he was fighting at a time where he could never be true to himself. So in my mind, yeah, probably not at the moment of him talking to me, but later on, like I really took that as a, like that was a true moment for me. Like this man that, I mean, I'm assuming he was gay. Everybody seems to think he was gay. He just went through so much, and he could never be true to him. And that was part of me hitting the bottom finally and just saying, you know what, I'm going to be true to me. If I live through whatever Jim Martin's going to do, I'm going to come out on the other side true to me. I'm not playing this game anymore. And that's part of that you take away from that conversation with Emil Griffith, because you see that this is a man that had to hide his entire life. And I didn't want to be that person.
Yeah, the thing about Emil is that even when the stories came out about him, the film, the book, and all of that, and he had some pretty serious dementia at the time. But when all those stories came out and it was publicly known that he was gay, that was around 2005 or something like that. And everybody, I'm old enough to remember when he fought in the 60s. I used to watch him on TV then when he fought in the Garden. As much as everybody loved Emil, in all that time since then, there have been some women that have come out, but have any men who have been involved in boxing come out? If there have been, maybe some people that are amateurs and not really prominent, but any prominent male boxers come out in all those years? I'm not aware of it. And that just shows how, even in 2022, just how still the homophobia and all these prejudices are still very deep in the sport of boxing.
For sure. I mean, we did have a champion, male champion from Puerto Rico.
Orlando Cruz, right. He was right. I forgot about him.
But as far as I know, he's the only male fighter to ever come out. But I mean, it's not just in boxing. It's, if we think there are no gay men in the NBA or in the NFL, you know, Major League Baseball, come on.
Yeah, and actually there are more women who have been willing to come out. Certainly in boxing, there are women that come to mind who are openly gay, have always fought as openly gay, and continue to, although, you know, we're still selling pink, if you will, and to a large degree across the boards in the sport, even in boxing. We still like to do that.
Wow.
What the thing that always struck me was, after all this horrible stuff happens to you, you're left for dead, you come back, 21 months later, you're in the ring to go to Stone. Now I know it's boxing.
The heart of a warrior right there.
Heart of a warrior. But what was in your head? Where other than money? I mean, I know money is money, need money, but what were you drawing from to get back in that ring?
I was back in the ring 6 months after being shot and stabbed, and I was scheduled to be back in the ring 3 months, but I got my rib broken sparring. Of course, it was the rib that was shot through, so the rib was already broken. When it got hit in sparring, it snapped in two. But no, No, it wasn't the money. It was, I wanted to get that 50th win because I wanted to show Jim Martin I could do it without him. I could get that win. I wanted 50 wins was always like my goal. But then it was so important for me to get a win without Jim Martin. And I fought Dakota Stone on the Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. undercard and was 50 seconds away from my 50th win.
Yep.
Had a broken hand since round number 2. And the doctor decides that he's going to stop the fight. And you can see me in the documentary. I'm jumping up and down. I'm begging him, please don't stop the fight. Please don't stop the fight. I'm 50 seconds away from my 50th win. And, I was winning the rounds. I'm winning. All I had to do was finish on my feet. And he stopped the fight. And I cussed him.
I remember watching it. It was stunning because you had winced, you had thrown it, you had winced.
And shame on me. You know what? I thought I was tough enough.
But it wasn't enough. It was already at the last round. Come on.
Right.
Come on.
And that was the thing. I'm telling you, it's 50 seconds. Give me 50 seconds. Give me the opportunity to dance around and move and jab and survive these last 50 seconds. But
because if you had been a man, he would have gave you those 50 seconds.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And I actually filed a suit. Yes, I filed a complaint against the California Boxing Commission, had a hearing and everything with that exact thing in mind, that if I had been a male fighter, it would never have been stopped. But what was it going to do? Even if they would have reversed the decision or whatever, it would have been a no contest. So
right.
I still wasn't going to get the 50th win.
You weren't going to get that win. And then you fought Jill after that.
And then I went to surgery to have my hand fixed and had a stroke. So it was really, of course, the doctor told me at that time, don't ever get hit in the head again. But me, because I'm hard-headed, I wanted to get that 50th win. I basically hid the truth from the commission and fought Mia. And, not really meaning to disrespect Mia, but when I lost to her, I knew my career was over because there's no way on my worst day and her best day she should beat me.
Exactly.
So
now you're back at King Promotions. Don King signed you, and now you've done full circle. How did that happen?
I'm working with Don King. I helped him run a couple shows, and it's great. I mean, it feels good that he respects me or trusts me. I don't know if he respects me, but it trusts me enough that, he leaves some jobs in my hands. Get this fighter for me, make this happen. It calls me up and we have some good conversations. Recently, I actually had the conversation with him about, I understand how he got so pissed off at fighters because they didn't respect him and they didn't appreciate what he did for him. I did. I always did. But other fighters didn't. But these guys that I'm promoting now, I feel like they don't give a shit about me. They don't care what I do, what I go out on the limb for them. It's all about them, not so much about us, the team.
So how many people you have in your stable? How many fighters?
Right now I'm down to, I only have two guys. I released everybody. I had a handful, and I just gave them releases because they don't really want to fight. It's hard to make matches. And I have Keemon Evans, who is a light heavyweight, 8-0 with 1 draw. He's a good prospect. I think he has a good future ahead of him. And I have Tony Aguilar, who's 9-0 and a 135-pound Mexican that loves to fight. Let's draw a line in the sand and go for a fight. I also work with Anthony Sevilla, who's from West Virginia. We got that coal mining genes and in our soul. And we both understand hard work. So he's 1 win and 1 draw. So, but we'll see.
And are you scouting for female fighters?
Yeah. I had a female fighter sign for a minute, and it's hard. Yeah. First of all, the mindset. Look, first, I wanted to be a fighter. I didn't want people to say Christy's a good female fighter. I wanted people to say she's a good fighter. So that's number one. Don't talk to me about you should get paid double because you're female. No, sell tickets and then you'll get paid. Doesn't matter if you're male or female. And then I think what got me was her coach said they wouldn't fight somebody because they were too tall. And at that point I was like, I can't get the release drawn up fast enough because
right.
Christy Martin versus Layla Ali, I think I gave up about 7 or 8 inches. Christy Martin versus Lisa Hollowine, my wife. I know I gave up about 4 or 5 inches. So, I mean, my whole career, I had to fight tall people. And that wasn't a good one for me.
Look, I saw that.
But you are looking, right?
Because my wife.
But there are women out there, right? No, there are some good fighters out there and
some women out there that are hungry and they get it. I mean, Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor. Oh my God, we were at the fight. We were actually row 2, and Madison Square Garden was jamming. I mean, they sold the place out. Everybody's going nuts. They put on a hell of a show.
It is great.
And yeah, they get it. They get it. And Michaela Myers get ready to fight Alyssa Baumgardner, I think.
Baumgardner, right.
And so, good fights. We have some good fights coming up.
Some very good fights coming up, and some good amateur boxers coming out of programs like out of California, the Boxing Beauties. There's some really great little kids coming up. So I think there are prospects for you. It's just a matter of digging them out and finding them and giving them opportunities to go on these shows. I mean, it's kind of hard because there are all these women who fought in the lean years, like 2008, 2010, 2014, when there was nothing going on. They were fighting for $3,000, $5,000, guts galore, like a Heather Hardy, somebody like that.
Right.
And those women are still out there.
Yeah, it's tough. And as a promoter that really just lives off of ticket sales and a couple sponsors, it's hard. It's hard to really build it's hard to build any fighter. But with the male fighters, there are more opportunities and more options for opponents. It's very limited to get the right female fighter.
In terms of question about promotion, because you work with Don for so many years, what are some of the positive and negative lessons of promotion that you learned from him? Because obviously he, the fight with Deirdre Gogarty in '96. Well, if you look at that card, it was an incredibly loaded card. You don't see that today. I mean, you had Tyson versus Bruno too. Bernard Hopkins was on that. The whole card was just loaded, including your fight, which many people consider the best fight on that card. But what were some of the things that you've learned from him to do and not to do as you're now focusing on this promotional activity that you're doing?
I think what I learned the most was every show that he did, whether it was a Tyson show or like a lesser fighter was the main event. Every show was an event. Every show was class. King put together real fights, and he brought that special flair to every show, and that's what I try to do. He, what I learned to not do, it's hard as a promoter, and especially at my level, but don't leave a kid sitting at the airport. Make sure everybody's there to get up, make sure they have their food money. And some of that might be like the motherly instincts of a female promoter. But don't disrespect these guys or females. They're these fighters. They're all busting their ass and trying to make it in this business. So give them a little pat on the back, give them a little respect, and treat them. Don't treat them like they're champions, because you have to earn that. But treat them like they have an opportunity to be a champion.
You got to take care of your fighters.
Absolutely.
I used to manage fighters. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
And the personalities and attitudes, and now with these young guys, it's all about social media.
Right.
This is what I don't understand. They want to videotape and put on social media every time they go to the gym. And like what they're doing. Why do you want your opponent to see what you're doing? I mean, I wouldn't make it in these days.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. Would you like to talk about your foundation?
For sure. Christy's Champs is my nonprofit. So we do a lot of speaking we go to prisons, we go to schools, all kinds of domestic violence galas and events, anything. And just basically share my story, make people more aware. This is my thing. Make people more aware that domestic violence isn't just about bruises.
Right.
Because so many of us, I think, believe it's all about the bruises. I mean, if Jim would have beaten me up and I could have on a regular basis, and I could have gone to my dad and said, here's the bruise, here's what he's doing, maybe I would have done that, maybe. But when it's just like emotional and isolation and just controlling everything that you do, it's harder for somebody that's never been in that situation to understand that situation. And it's hard to explain it because people, and especially if they've never been in it, he just cares about you. He just, that's just his way of caring about you. No, it's his way of abusing me.
Right.
But people don't get it without the bruises sometimes. So that's one of the things that we're out there talking about all the time.
Now, the book in the foundation, what's been he's getting a lot of coverage on this, but what's been the reaction within the boxing media and the boxing community? Because obviously everybody that knows boxing knows who you are, saw your fights, you were just inducted in the Hall of Fame and all of that. But now that you're taking this route, what has their reaction been?
It's so funny because Jim had me so scared for all those years that the boxing world would turn their back on me. And the boxing world, since the shooting and stabbing, has done nothing but open up their arms and embrace me. And with this book, I mean, I have rekindled so many relationships with sports writers that I knew from back in my career, my King days. So it's always fun to do the interview with them because the first few minutes we rehash old stories, and talk about this happening and that happening. Do you remember this fight? What, so-and-so did this crazy thing. And, oh yeah, I was there. So it's been a lot of fun to like relive those moments. And like I said, they're doing great stories with the book.
That's amazing. What was your favorite fight out of your whole 49 fights? What was your favorite? Like, what's the one that stands out to you the most?
Well, it has to be the Gogarty fight because the Gogarty fight's really the one that put me out there. It's the one that really got everybody's attention for my career, but also for women's boxing. So I think that fight will always have its place in history, even though after the Taylor Serrano fight, I text Gogarty and told her we lost our place. We were number one. We were number one for a very, very long time, but they bumped us. So.
Well, yeah, but it's a lot of years later, so it's okay. It's different generation, but it's that fight doesn't happen without yours, though. So that's the important point. You don't sell out Madison Square Garden without you.
Well, I appreciate that, and the really cool thing was Amanda Serrano. She was messaging me back and forth a couple of days before the fight, and then after the fight, and she said exactly that. She said, "Without you, Christy, there would be no us." And I'm like, wow, it gives me chills right now. So I really appreciate it because there's so many young fighters, whether it be male or female, they forget about the ones that came before them. And
no, it's important. It's as if it just existed out of nowhere, and it's not true at all. And without you, there's no embrace of amateur fighting. Amateur boxing, when you fought, Deirdre Gogarty was illegal in the United States for women to fight. It was just getting legal. There's no Olympics without what you did. So it's enormously important to the sport. And the fact that you are in the Hall of Fame, that the Hall of Fame woke up and said, yes, women who fight are, as you put it, you're their sister and your sisters and brothers.
I told them way back in 1996, when I told the story at the Hall of Fame induction that in 1996, I said, one of these days, all these brothers up here, they need a sister. And I was just really glad that I got to be that sister or one of those.
It was huge. The other thing that really struck me about your speech is you told everyone, I want you to time me 2 minutes. And I know everybody in that room was thinking 2-minute rounds. And then you faked us out and you said, nope, it's domestic violence. Yeah. And that message where you told us how many people are affected by domestic violence, 40 people in 2 minutes.
Right. 20 minutes, 20 people per minute in the United States are assaulted by their domestic partner. And that's crazy. It's crazy.
Extraordinary. But it was so affecting to me as I watched you, unabashedly tears streaming down my face, thinking to myself, this is how you are integrating all your worlds. And that is such a powerful thing to bring us all those parts of the truth. Because whatever happens, Christy, you are Christy Champ, who created a sport and a place for women to have their own experience as champions. And the fact that you could dig into your soul to lay that bare for us, and even on that stage, accepting the accolades that were you do, show us, demonstrate to us how that all is of a piece, was very powerful and will be forever powerful.
Thank you. And, I'm pretty sure I was like the shortest speech. But I really think, because so many people came to me afterwards and said that 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then when you said for us to, this is what happened in that 2 minutes that I talked, it was so effective. And so as people walked out of there, they probably remembered more of my 2 minutes than they remembered of Floyd's 17.
Or Marion Tribier, although she was pretty cool.
Yes. Yeah, she was good.
She was pretty cool.
Wow.
But I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, is there anything else you guys want to cover with Christy before we let her go eat her hamburger?
Are you on social media at all?
I am, fortunately or unfortunately. I'm all over the place. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Christy Martin Promotions is on all of them. Christy's Champs is on all of them. Okay. And then just me, Christy Salters Martin.
And you got a fight coming up. Your promotions company have a fight coming up soon?
We are promoting November 5th in Myrtle Beach. So we have that coming up. But what we do have coming up at the end of this month, July 22nd through the 24th, we have a 3-day amateur tournament in Fayetteville, North Carolina. That will be seen on Boxing TV.
Nice.
We're really very excited about, bringing TV on. And I think, we had hoped that we would have about 400 boxers. The gas price is hurting us a little bit. USA Boxing added a tournament this weekend right before us. So that hurt us a little, but it's still going to be a fantastic weekend of fights. Boxing, sorry, it's amateurs. So it's bouts.
Yeah, bouts.
They don't fight in the amateurs, they box.
That's right. They box. That's right.
They box and they win JOs, junior JO.
Yeah.
That's right. All right. Well, look, folks, it's been a fantastic session here. We've gone round and round with Christy Martin. Melissa, you want to tell the people where they can find you?
Sure. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Girl Boxing Now, and my website is girlboxing.org.
Right on. Eddie, tell everybody where they can find you.
Christy and everyone, it's just been an honor to have you on, because I hope you realize your important place in history, in boxing, in women's boxing, in LGBTQ boxing, in the LGBTQ community, and everything. And it's absolutely historic when all this is written. You could find me generally on Twitter at NHB News. My website's eddiegoldman.com, and I have a Patreon page at patreon.com/Eddie Goldman, where you can subscribe for more content there.
That's right. This is Sports Justice Radio, and I am your fight goddess. You can find me on Twitter at Angry Afro Radio, because I am that angry Black woman, and on Instagram at Fight Goddess Fitness. You guys pick up Christy Martin's book on Amazon. This story is amazing. Check out her documentary on Netflix. It was The Deal with the Devil, I believe the name of the documentary is called. And thank you, Christy, for showing up here today and sharing your story with us. Like I said, it was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. You are a survivor and our champion, and we love you. All right. So we love to see you next time. You guys take care. Peace, love, and push-ups. We're out. Peace. All right.